who's speaking in their back.
Sorry?
So that person might practice. Whereas this person who's talking in
Oh,
someone's
it's okay, it's
background,
okay.
that person might interrupt
It
us.
was in my background, but yeah, it was my background, but it's not going to interrupt with the debate. Trust me on that.
Together the major keywords here are the struggling banks, which means that these are banks that are using more money than gaining. Dear judges, you can ask how a bank's struggling, because you can't help something that's not struggling. So I'm going to show you how banks are struggling. Why banks are struggling, dear judges. First of all, when the COVID-19 pandemic started, people panicked and banks started closing, so people started to withdraw their cash from the bank. And that judges, and we know when there are no deposits, when there are no loans, and then there's no profit for the banks. So banks are clearly struggling on this point. Then another point was loans weren't paid on time. Because if the people like if like loans that were the loans that were issued before were not paid, just like people were in a pandemic, they had issues, they some lost their jobs, so their judges the loans that were taken weren't able to be paid. And there's another issue of lack of deposits, as I earlier stated. We know that banks sell money, judges. So if they do not have any money, then what is there to sell? So they're clearly struggling, judges. Then you can ask yourselves, how are we going to help these struggling banks, judges? We're going to, let me clearly inform you on this one. A bailout package is an assistance, it's an aid. For us, we're not going to give the banks financial aid. We're not giving them any money. Instead, we're going to provide a policy that states that a financial policy, a policy that states that every person that is making a contract or transaction above 5 million, dear judges, should have a bank slip. That means the money will pass through the bank, hence money back in the bank, which will solve the problems of lack of deposits in banks, dear judges. That is the point that we're tackling, dear judges, because if there is not, because we've seen that people have cashed out all their money, people are preferring so they cannot be charged more. So we're going to set a policy, dear judges, that is going to clearly state that a transaction or contract that is above 5 million, dear judges, is going to go through the banks. It's going to have a bank slip. Another thing that, as I said, there was solving the problem of that money. Right, I'll give you time later. Then, dear judges, we're going to, let me explain it. I have to say this because we're limiting this debate to Rwanda, dear judges. We're going to get the central bank, that is the BNR, to reduce the interest rate that is banks pay so that the bank can assign time for the loans to be paid to the people having hardships to pay them. Dear judges, the central bank is a government body that is supposed to control the money value, to control that money doesn't lose its value, dear judges. Dear judges, the central bank charges an interest because banks keep their money in the central bank. So the bank charges an interest rate to those banks. So if they're charging a high interest to banks that do not even have money in them, because they charge that interest equivalent to the circulation of money. Money is circulating in the people, but it is not in the bank. So if they charge an interest to banks that do not have money, dear judges, that is an issue. So we're going to reduce that interest that is being charged from the banks, that interest that is being charged to the banks, and the banks will also extend the grace period to people who are having problems paying their loans. So if the central bank reduces the interest rate, the banks will also extend the grace period to pay their loans, which means people will have more time, and the banks will also get their money that they did not have. Dear judges, you can ask who is in charge of this. Who is in charge of this is the Minecofin, and also the BNR, which is the central bank. Judges, I'm telling you that our plan does not include any money because you see our economy is clearly collapsing. If we put money in the banks, then other things are not tackled. Our plan is really it does not any funds. It's just creating a policy. A policy is creating a necessity, and
lot of information
denied. Where there's necessity, there is need. Your point of information.
I would like to ask how could you differentiate your policy from a bailout, because you're bringing a policy, not a bailout.
I'm telling you, a bailout. A bailout it's something. It's an assistance. First, we're bringing our assistance of a policy. We're not giving money, dear judges. We're clearly bringing a policy that is going to help those banks without bringing more money. Because if you give the bank money and you give the people money, everyone is going to be rich. And when everyone is rich, no one is rich because there is inflation. So our policy is an aid. A bailout, as I clearly said, is an aid given to someone. We're giving them an aid in the form of a policy that I clearly stated, dear judges. Hear this. The policy that is going to say everyone who has a contract or transaction above 5 million is going to have a bank slip. That money is going to go through the bank. It's going to go through the people and through the bank, dear judges. You can ask, how can we guarantee that people are going to do this? Dear judges, we're creating a policy, and there's a policy, it is a law. And when people do not follow that law, then there's a remedy for those people that do not follow that law. So there's a guarantee people are going to do that. There's also a guarantee that banks are going to keep going on, and everything's going to go back to normal, dear judges. You can ask, when are we going to do this? We're going to do this. If we take this is going to be implemented as soon as possible, dear judges. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. We would love to welcome the first speaker from opposition side. Your time starts now.
Could I see the timer?
I said I'm going to time you manually because my laptop isn't on my side. Like I'm having issues, or if you can give me like 2 minutes to fix it.
Yes, please do.
This whole shit of a minute. Ntuje on screen keyboard iri kugira. I can't. Well, I'm sorry. I think I'll keep timing you guys manually because I don't know if I can show you the time on my on my phone, and my laptop has an issue.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. Are you seeing the time like this?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay then. So
Somebody.
here we are.
Renee is unmuted. Would you please mute your microphone, Renee?
Okay.
So your time starts now.
Thank you, dear judges. By the names of Mudish Abdul Karim, I'm the first speaker here to debate against the motion that says this House proposes a bailout package to struggling banks as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. So on to our reputations right away. First thing we differ with the proposition team is what they call a bailout package, right? They've come up with a plan, and their plan is non-topical in our opinion. Why? Because a bailout package, just like the way it says, it's supposed to be a package. It's supposed to be money. It's supposed to be some resources that you're forwarding to something. From its general use as we know it, when you go to bail out someone from prison, right, you pay money so that they get out from it. A definition in its context, right, in the context of economics, in the context of finance, according to Wikipedia, it's when a business, an individual, or government provides money and or resources to a failing company. So as you can see, the context in which this word bailout package is used in this debate is supposed to be an advancement of resources, advancement of money, which is not what they're bringing. It's non-topical. Thus, they're not proposing the motion like they should be, which is a problem. Before I even leave this argument, the word itself, package, right? You don't package a policy. A package is a collection, like I said, of resources, of money that you're giving away, right? So that's our first refutation against their team, that their motion, that their attack on the debate, their way of doing it is wrong, right? They're supposed to propose to us something that resembles a bailout. So on to our other reputations. One, we believe that financial assistance, we believe that this money, resources, or any other form that is going to the banking sector right now is unnecessary. Why? Because, first of all, in April 2020, the Central Bank of Rwanda, NBR, floated a liquidity support of 50 billion Rwandan francs with a tenor of 3, 6, and 12 months for banks across Rwanda. We do agree that in 2020, by the way, not as of now, in 2020, there was a struggle, right? There was more cash outflow for banks than there was cash inflow, which caused liquidity crisis for very, very many banks. And the government saw this, so through the National Bank of Rwanda, they brought up some solutions, some measures, of which the most notable one is the one I've just said, this extended lending facility for banks, the ELFB of 50 billion francs for any bank that needs to get more cash inflows, that is, say, from the National Bank itself. So it that a year in has brought results. Now let us check the statistics. They have done their plan. Let us see if the government has rose from 180% to 253%, meaning they have way more liquid assets now. The cash inflows are good compared to their cash outflows. Then secondly, their liquidity ratio for MFIs, microfinance institutions, rose from 108.8 to 110.1%. And lastly, the banking sector profitability also rose from $26.2 billion, not dollars, Rwandan francs, to 33 billion Rwandan francs. So as you can see, using all three measures of to see if the banking sector is doing well, banks are doing well as of 2021. So there is no need for us to take any measure to try to lift up the banking sector, because as we have shown with clear statistics, the banking sector is doing good. So first it was showing there's no necessity at all to try to lift up the banking sector as it's already doing good. There's something the government has done for it. And second, even the plan you're bringing, even though there was a necessity, it does not apply. Why? Because the motion mandates you to propose something that is of the form of a bailout package, something which you believe you have not been able to do. So in case you do come up with a bailout package, we still saying it's unnecessary. Then our second other argument is that it is quite costly, right? A lot of money has already been allocated through the national budget to do very many different things, right? To recover the economy of Rwanda and continue a development budget. Rwanda had this national strategy for transformation that it set up that has been stifled by the COVID-19 pandemic and wants to carry on with it. So money cannot be afforded to be taken to the banking sector. There's a lot of other sectors that has to develop, like the tourism sector, like directly funding money to the small, medium enterprises, the micro businesses. There's a lot of places where this money can go and have an impact. We shall talk more about the education sector, how it is not faring well right now, and thus needs more investment. And investment that we cannot lose on something as unworthy as the banking sector to have again proved that is what is doing well. Then lastly, we have the fact that bailout packages are risky. In 2008, there was a global economic crisis, which is caused by overused bank bailouts, right? So if we keep on giving bank bailouts to banks that are well off, it risks a financial crisis. It risks an economic crisis. Why? Because this leads to poor risk management by banks, by financial institutions, as it's an easy way out for them once they fail, right? Once they get this liquidity crisis. So they have less stringent risk management policies. So we don't want to keep bailing them out even when they're doing well, which we have proved that they are as of the status quo. So those are arguments from the proposition side. Everything else shall be expanded and talked more about by the second speaker. I rest my case.
Okay, thank you. He still had 1 minute, but yeah, it's okay. Let's welcome the second speaker from proposition side. Your time starts now. Can you see the timer?
I was changing my seat, so can we start again? We changed
but
seats.
you can see the timer, right?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, then let's start again.
So,
okay, start.
Thank you, judges. I'm here by the names of Rwanda Ansavi, and I'm the second speaker from the proposition side. And we're here to propose the motion that says that the House proposes a bailout package to traveling buses as the consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dear judges, I would like to explain for you clearly what the opposition side didn't hear very well. A bailout package, dear judges. First of all, a bailout is any act of giving financial assistance to a failing business or organization to save it from collapsing, dear judges. Any financial assistance that have been the rise of 40% of liquidity in microfinances, dear judges. That's what we are trying to tackle, dear judges. Yes, there have been large liquidity, dear judges. That's why we're trying to bring a plan so that the money can go back into the bank, so that the bank stops struggling. Actually, the banks are struggling because there is a lot of liquidity, as he said himself. So we're trying to tackle this liquidity, dear judges, which is why we're feeling this price that the transaction that happens more than 5 million is going to pass into the bank. And then if the transaction takes place into the bank, that means that the bank will hold the money again and no more liquidity, no more money in people, dear judges. The money will be in the bank. And there's this quote that says, if everyone is rich, no one is rich, dear judges. So if you put money in the bank, as they are saying, we're not putting money in the bank. If you put the money in the bank and the money that had been in people want to be removed, that means the increase inflation rate, dear judges. If it increases inflation rate, dear judges, that means that the people are rich and the banks are rich. And here we need to make the banks have more money so that they can afford providing money to the people as loans sometimes, dear judges, and also sell the money to the people, dear judges. So they were struggling because there are a lot lot of liquidity, and we showed you exactly how we're going to tackle that, dear judges. And my second speaker talked about the loans, dear judges, how the people who is by starting their pandemic, who had took loans before the pandemic, couldn't afford paying these loans, dear judges, which made these banks struggle because the people are not paying the loans accordingly, dear judges, because they are affected by the pandemic. Dear judges. So as we told you how we're going to do it, as the central bank, we are going to reduce the charges that we charge to the banks that give money to us, dear judges. By reducing the charges, the banks will also make it easy for the people who keep the loans, dear judges, so that these people extend time for them, so they can pay this loan easily and way efficiently, dear judges, which is going to make the people pay their loans back. And when they pay the loans back, their money will go back to the bank, dear judges, which means that the liquidity will be reduced, which is our main problem here, which is the main problem. And told us that the bailout package means money. He told us that, okay, we should put money in the banks. And again, after the time, he said that the bailout package is risky, but when it's money. So why are you contradicting yourself? You say you're telling us to put money, and then after you tell us that the bailout package is risky. So what are you telling us? You're contradicting yourself completely. So that's why you should come on our plan. We are giving a financial policy, dear judges. And let me tell you one thing. Look at the document we attached in the handout box here. Every judge look at it. Handout box. We attached this document. This document there is Article 64. Article 64. Judge, can you see it? Article 64 states that everybody who makes a transaction more than 50,000, dear judges, must have a financial proof, dear judges. So for us, for the people will agree this financial policy that we are putting on, if they don't agree, there will be who doesn't use it, dear judges. Another thing is that sell money. Banks sell money as loans to people, dear judges. You understand? If banks have money, they're going to sell them as loans, dear judges, to other people, which give them the profit when the people pay the interest. So why liquidity is bad is that if people have money, liquidity means people having money more than banks. So if people have money, banks won't be having money, loans won't be there, banks will be declining, banks will be struggling. That's how it is, dear judges. How do you tell me that liquidity is good? Why don't you even think? You didn't even make research on this topic before you came here. Thank you. I raise my.
Thank you so much, second speaker proposition. Let us hear from the second speaker opposition. Thank you. Your time starts now. Oh, you're still changing. Okay. Are you ready now? Second speaker opposition.
I'm sorry, can you guys hear me? My laptop seems to be having some
Yes.
issues, but I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
All right.
So your time starts now, right?
Start. different types, but it all has to be monetary. It has to be in terms of money, not in terms of a policy, ladies and gentlemen. And second off, we gave them logical evidence. We said, according to the context in which bailing out is usually given, right? It's bailing you out of jail, ladies and gentlemen. And so we gave them some logical evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, they keep telling us that liquidity rate is still high. To what extent is it still high? What evidence do you have for that, ladies and gentlemen? They give us exactly zero of this evidence, ladies and gentlemen. And so they keep bringing a plan of like how they're giving transactions of more than 5 million Rwandan francs, and they're supposed to happen through banks, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, how many of such transactions happens or do not happen through banks, ladies and gentlemen? Two, how much then will involving those transactions in the banks actually help lower that liquidity, which you seem to think is bad, when in fact you give us no reason for it being bad. And three, most importantly, how will you enforce it? You keep giving funding, then you keep giving a policy instead of monetary aid to dodge funding, but you'll still need funding. You'll still need to enforce such policies. So need funding. Maybe the police will have to get involved. Maybe you'll have to have enforcing regulatory authorities, ladies and gentlemen. All of this requires funding. So how can your plan be carried out? Also, time. You keep saying as soon as possible, ladies and gentlemen. What is as soon as possible? As soon as possible can be in a lifetime away, can be 2 minutes from now, ladies and gentlemen. Tell us right now what date, what time, ladies and gentlemen. What serious, real facts, ladies and gentlemen. We also have the problem of them coming here and literally just telling us that it's policy, ladies and gentlemen. But for what purpose? And secondly, how is that related to this motion? That is really, really irrelevant, ladies and gentlemen. That is beating around the bush and making a very, very unfair interpretation of the motion in order to give a very, very moot and bad result, ladies and gentlemen. But going out to our plan, let's look at the debate in terms of a debate in which we actually had a serious proposition set, in which we actually had one in which did not beat around the bush and did not try to define the motion in an unfavorable manner. We said bailout packages are, one, unnecessary because there's already been enough assistance given. Two, they are costly, ladies and gentlemen. We have the education sector, which is really, really struggling, ladies and gentlemen. We have these different policies, ladies and gentlemen, that are, we have the different people who realize that education is needed, ladies and gentlemen. We need to boost money. We realize that there's a lot of effort that could be put elsewhere, to the tourism sector, through health sector, through all these different sectors that require help. So, ladies and gentlemen, why specifically are you going to banking sector, one of the most stable sectors in this economy, ladies and gentlemen, after COVID? Why exactly are you doing this? And lastly, we talked about the risk. I began with a quote talking about the 2008 financial crisis, ladies and gentlemen. We explained how bailout packages being given, the monetary fund bailout package, not whatever whimsical ideas they have of what a bailout package is. We gave that money being given enables banks to think of themselves as free of risk. They do reckless behavior, they lend to whoever they want, they make profit however much they want, ladies and gentlemen, when they're given this money. But by learning from this pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, by learning from this pandemic and learning that the government cannot be there for you every single time, these banks will be there, they'll develop contingency plans, they'll develop ideas onto how best to be free of risk. And ladies and gentlemen, they will develop from this pandemic just like the government and every other sector of production has developed. So ladies and gentlemen, we do not see a need for the bailout packages given by them or not given by them, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we take this debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, second speaker, opposition side. Let's hear from third speaker, proposition. Are you ready? Third speaker, proposition.
Can I begin?
it. Dear judges, people outside there, they need what? They need the bank. That's why we're going to say that everyone making a transaction above 5 million will have to pass it through the bank and get the bank slip. Now, when the people see that there is not any other way of doing that, they need to use the bank. Will be the one to cause them to go there. And when they're going to deposit what? When they deposit their money there, that means we're going to increase deposit. And now we're going to be fighting the problem. They came here and they showed us, they say that deposits are stable. Dear judges, we suffered a coronavirus pandemic and it is still going on. People took out money because they needed the money. The banks were closing. Now, how do you tell me that it is stable? Yet the condition we're in doesn't allow us to be stable, dear judges. How are they showing us? They did not show us the statistics, dear judges, on how it is stable. They did not show us anything. All they claimed that it was stable. We do not allow it unless you have a fact for that. They said that we can put it, for them, their main concern is money. For us, we're saying it is an assistance, dear judges. I hope you quote me right. An assistance, not money. For them, they're just focusing on money. For us, that's not what we're focusing on. They came and they said that liquidity rose, dear judges. Yes, it does, dear judges. That is why we are saying that we have to reduce now how are we going to do this? We said that because now the banks are no longer giving the loan because the loans money does not have money. The banks do not have money. That's why we are going to pull out the money by putting it as a policy, and people are going to see it as a need. When they see it as a need, they will deposit the money. When they deposit the money, now the banks will have increase in deposits. When they increase deposits, judges, now they can be able to be given loans because now the bank has the loans. Dear judge, let me continue. Dear judge, they're talking about education sector, that our money can be put in the education sector. Dear judge, it is true, but now for us, the bank, we are going to cater for to the people, dear judges. We have shown you everything. We have shown you that we're going to decrease the struggling banks, and we have shown you how it is an issue that banks are struggling because no motion can be raised before what? Yes, no motion can be raised without an issue. I was also information New Times, dear judges article. We have already given you our articles. Which shows that no transaction above 50,000 should be done without a bank slip or maybe a financial proof. You see how this is going to be good?
Good information.
Dear judges, we are going to have the struggling.
Point information.
Because other sectors are also linked to the just the banks. Dear judges, this is how it is going to be so impactful. So impactful. Allowed. 1.
This time is protected.
We are going to put also this when the deposits are going to increase, it's going to also increase. Other sectors are going to be also getting the loans. They're going to be also doing that. Dear judges, our country is going to be developed. They're going to be also getting the money. Yet, and then the other small percentage removed from maybe lowering the rates. It's going to go all back to normal, and then it won't have any problem. Dear judge, I invite the opposition to our side. I rest my case.
Thank you. The third speaker from proposition. Let us now welcome the third speaker on the opposition side. Ready?
Not yet. Hello. Good. You're good to go.
Please hurry.
Yeah, so give me time to set it up. Okay, so
Okay.
all right.
Your time.
So I'll be starting my timer right.
Okay.
I'll be starting my timer right now. During the 2021 parliamentary workshop at the spring meetings of the World Bank and IMF, Mr. Antonio should focus more on remedies to the harms that arose due to the pandemic through reallocation of funds across sectors, which could help so as to have an equitable development of all sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Murugo Gatera Audrey, and I stand here and I am proud to oppose this motion. In the end, before I move on to building our case, a few things they brought to the table. So the first thing they brought to the table is that struggling, it means losing more than you're earning. But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, they did not consider the statistics we brought to the table of how these banks are no longer losing more than they're earning, since we show that the three factors for us to measure struggle: the liquidity ratio for banks, which is now above 100%, up to 252%, and then we also have the liquidity ratio for IMFIs, which is 101.1%, and the banking sector profitability, which rose to 33 billion Rwanda francs. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, they are struggling. They never define struggling in the scope of the status quo. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, they also bring another point of saying that banks don't have money. They don't have money, so we have to prioritize. But in the end, we also showed you that the deposit rate stayed constant. So these banks do have money, and we believe that that point is also cancelled. We also question them on the point of bailout packages. So they come here, project share their screen on the same page that we looked up the definition of financial assistance, and you clearly saw that it's just monetary funds, monetary aid, ladies and gentlemen. So in the end, something that is monetary, if they do not understand this grammar, it means, ladies and gentlemen, something that involves money. And in the end, we also ask them, how do you package a policy? And they never do answer that. So ladies and gentlemen, they also agree with us that other sectors do need money. So that's why we're sticking to the status quo, that whose budget really allocates money for every single sector. And we believe that we've already set a background or the basis for us to struggle when it comes to the banking sector, because we've seen that the monetary funds that we get then in April 2020 have actually worked. So we believe that there is no necessity of a bailout package right now. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, they come here telling us liquidity will increase, but they never told us how bad liquidity increasing in citizen is a bad thing. But we believe that liquidity increasing means more deposition, means more striving of these banks. So another thing they never answered to this point, ladies and gentlemen, is that they never answered how many banks they think are struggling. And in the end, if they are struggling, so how many people at this moment are doing such transaction in order for us to even consider their policy, ladies and gentlemen? We believe that transaction will still exist through banks because people trust these banks. People will still deposit their money through banks, and they will still carry out transactions through banks, ladies and gentlemen. So another thing they brought to the table is inflation, that we're the world that we're causing inflation. But let's look at both worlds, ladies and gentlemen. In their world, we believe, first off, we believe that this is an irrelevant concept in this motion, because on our side, in our world, because the bailout packages are the ones that are actually, if we implement them right now, then they're the ones, because it is a central bank that will be providing them. It is the one that will, put a burden on the central bank, and in the end have to print more money, which is a problem because it will lead to inflation in their world. But we see no inflation in our world. So what is wrong with that plan? One, you can't package a policy, and we've been pressing on this point since the beginning of this debate, and we believe that it is true. And then another thing they bring to the table, ladies and gentlemen, which is not really true and it is irrelevant, is the fact that they are saying that they are going to enforce a policy without money. Every single policy, no matter how small it is, has to have monetary funds going into it for it to be able to be enforced. So we believe that, one, they are confused about how to go with the motion, and two, even the plan that they are bringing to the table is irrelevant, ladies and gentlemen, because any policy requires monetary, funding. Another thing, Another thing they did not clarify more on is how are they getting this money that they are going to use in order for them to enforce this money. And the last thing that is wrong with their plan is that they're talking about their timeline as soon as possible, which is not defined. Number one, and two, the last speaker just comes here and tell us that it is as soon as after the debate. But as soon as they get out of the debate, we believe that they don't really won't get the right definition or the right assessment of a struggle. Another impact on their side is that it increases or it demotivates the business people to actually do business. Because if you're restricting people who have 5 million or who are transacting for 5 million, they could have done through banks, but they also have other means, and we want diversity in this world. So we believe that even if they would have done through Momo, it would have passed, right? But in the end, if they're discouraging such business people, then we believe that there is no inflow, there is no more cash inflow in their world. But ladies and gentlemen, let's go to our side. We are the side that is inclusive of all sectors, right? But because we've shown you that since the beginning of 2020, we've been injecting funds into the banking sector. We believe that it is the backbone of the economy, and we've seen an increase in that. Now, as my second speaker emphasized, let's now go to the other struggling sectors that back up the banking sector, because no liquidity in people means no deposits in bank, which is a bad side on the proposition side. In the end, we believe that we are the side that
The time for preparation of the reply speech is over. Let us hear from the opposition side, either the first or the
What do you need to fix them, or how much time you need to fix them?
Can you hear me? I think we're ready now.
Okay, knock it out. If you need to use those 30 seconds, please go. Timer, Judge
Okay.
Grace
So I might
is.
finish in the last 20 seconds starting.
Yes,
Now, the
please.
last thing I want you to listen from my reply do with reason they gave as to why they're doing what they're doing. They claim that there was less transactions done through banks. They gave no evidence at all as to why that was the case or to how much of a degree that happened. Whereas we gave them a statistic from the World Bank given by the second speaker that deposit rates have been constant at around
Your connection is still breaking. Still hear you.
But it's okay. I think they have used up their time. Grace, can you hear me?
Yes,
How much of that 20 seconds?
they were done. They were
Okay.
done with their time.
Okay, if they are done, that's good. Team Eldeka, can you hear me? Hello, Eldeka. Lise Dochigali, can you hear me? Eldeka,
Yes,
can
we
you hear
can
me?
hear you. Sorry. Yes, we can
Thank
hear
you
you.
so much.
So your
Now
time
that
starts now.
Rivera is done with their reply, so you can go ahead with your reply speech.
Of 100%, and they also told us how there is the percentage of 1.1% of liquidity in microfinances. But then if you understand what is the liquidity of money, liquidity of money is that there is a lot of money in cash. That means liquid money, it's cash money. So if there's a lot of cash money, if there's 1.1 cash money, that means there's a lot of cash money, then no money in the banks, which is we clearly explained that is causing banks to struggle because they don't have money. I think we clearly explained that. So they even came here. They're the ones who gave us these statistics. They say that there is high liquidity, and then after saying that, they say that banks are stable. So just think about it. How are banks stable if there is a lot of money in cash than in banks? Thank you, dear judges. So they came here and talked about the sectors. Yes, we don't even disagree that. Sector, which is why all the funds that we have as the government, we are directing them to those sectors. And on the issue of banks, which is why we are putting a policy, not money, but then the money taking it to those sectors. And they brought a plan of helping those sectors, which is what we are doing already. And the main part of help here is struggling banks, not the sectors. Already sectors, we are giving them the money, but also we want to help the bank by setting a financial policy, which is why we are not putting their money, because money is already in the sectors. So they said something that we are clearly tackling here. Another thing say that they also ask questions in the third speech. Who asked questions in the third speech? But then let me help them and answer it for them. They asked us that what are the banks that are struggling, dear judges? So dear judges, every bank is struggling, but then at different rates, dear judges. So which is why the banks are struggling, which is why actually this motion was raised. Banks are struggling, but then at different rates. So those are the banks. All the banks are struggling, but there are different sides according to what we told you of people cashing out money and also people failing to pay loans. And they told us about the stable of deposits. And my first speaker clearly told you that the deposits decreased to 39.1% of the rate of 39.1%. That's the rate of the deposit. The deposit in bank increased. Go. Are we done? Sorry. And they also they didn't answer our burden. Our burden was like this: if they don't show us how to help the
Time is
bank
over, please.
that are struggling, they won't. And then we also saw the impacts. They didn't show the impacts. I'm so sorry. Thank you, dear judges.
Okay, thank you so much for the awesome debate. Let us welcome the Chief Judge remarks. And is this also a silent round, if I may call it? Hi, I mean, the both teams, and I loved the confidence, the sense of humor, and everything in the debate. It was really awesome. But I would love to highlight some things that you guys need to improve on before we conclude the debate. Yes. You that a debate is a serious kind of game. So humor is okay, but again, too much humor isn't always okay. So make sure when you speak, you use words without repeating them, and you hit the point without repeating a thing which is not even really necessary in a game or in a debate. Something else before I forget is there are some vocabularies or some words which are banned in the debate or which are not allowed to be used in a debate. If you say as soon as possible, that's not an exact time, and as soon as possible might be different. A person you're addressing to, my as soon as possible may your as soon as possible might be like in a week to come. So as soon as possible, please never use as soon as possible, never use maybe other vocabularies like these ones, I mean adjectives like these ones, because these ones give no sense to your speech and they are unsure statements. And in a debate, you need to say a thing you and which is going to add value to your speech. So avoid such kind of words. Maybe
It's okay. Like everything is noted. Everything is noted.
okay. Okay,
We are good. We are covered.
sure. So, well, you can go backstage and we'll be sorting out the marks and
Yeah, someone go check.
They are not there. I don't
Okay,
know
they
how.
are here. They can.
Rebecca, please, can you put on your microphone? These people, I don't think they can hear us.
Oh, Ayub, their car, they went. Oh, they are still here. I think
They are
still.
they are here, but not
Let me try to
exactly.
get them on.
All right.
Let me try to get them on.
They are here. I can hear them. Can you hear us? All right. All right. That's good. Are you all there? Okay. They are back.
So now that Team Erdeka is back, can Team Rivera is like, are you hearing us?
Can I have my help?
Can you mute your mic?
Okay, Rivera, are you hearing us?
Rivera,
Yes, we can hear.
can you put on your video also?
Rivera?
We need to see you guys. All right. That's good.
Hmm? Hello everyone, am I audible enough? Hello?
You are. Hi.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us a very nice and friendly and nice debate of these semifinals. After deliberations with the judges, we have decided as a verdict that Team Riviera makes it to the final. And Team LDK is going to play for the third place. Like I say, interpretation of is something that is very important a lot. Like the motion stated that this House believes that this House proposes a bailout package to struggling banks as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we really believe a bailout is something that has to be of resources or financial. There is no such thing as a policy for a bailout. So we're expecting things to go that way, which they were supposed to be. If you look at any definition, bailout has to be resource or financial. And if you look at the bailouts made up through history, they were financial or like resource oriented. So had maybe the teams interpreted the motion correctly, it could have probably gone the other way around. It is much about winning as it is about learning. We all learn every time, and I believe this is a lesson. Maybe the team that did not make it to the final will take forward in their semi-finals, and also we encourage the team that has won to take this as a a shot in the arm to perform better in the finals. and the best speaker is the second speaker from Riviera. Also, yeah, this decision from the this is the verdict from the judges. There have been so many of crashes, but we believe this is it, especially something of now that banks have stability and are making profits of like maybe 33 millions, which why is it is that struggling? And it's something that has been persistent. And how is that policy going to work anyway? And if what is it going to need? How long for the enforcement? How is it going to be uh, how is it going to be put in
Baada ya hivyo mpaka nimezoeleka